En los últimos años de la vida de San José María Escrivá de Balaguer, se tomó en película parte de su predicación, catequesis, como le gustaba decir. Son reuniones con personas de toda condición, celebradas en diversos países, en las que solo hablaba de Dios, respondiendo a preguntas de los asistentes.
This is not really good news, the content of the book, but it's good that it's been published, so it's good news that you
Yeah.
have been published. First of all, what do you think about the Opus Dei after all this research? You think it's a criminal organization or it is a sect, which would be for some people the same? What do you think?
So we're starting with an easy answer, an easy question. I think it's many things at the same time. So first of all, it's a deeply kind of political and kind of reactionary organization that uses spirituality and uses Catholicism as a way to get into people's lives and convince them that it's not a threat.
There are a lot of people that just want to take advantage of the network they have.
Yeah, and I think actually that's a very good way of thinking about it. I think for me, the best way of thinking about Opus Dei, especially somewhere like Spain, is and the US as well, I think is true, is as a network. It's a network of like-minded conservatives generally, and conservative elites quite frequently, because often these are people who are politicians or business people or academics, or journalists in some cases. So it's a network of conservative elites who sometimes share a certain spirituality and certain devout Catholicism, but not always. I mean, so there are people who are part of this kind of wider Opus Dei network who are not even Christian.
I also wanted to ask you, because since you're also like me, an economist, it strikes somehow that the president of Caixa Bank Foundation is an Opus Dei member. Santander, Palomo, she, the wife of Emilio Martinez, is a member of the Opus Dei, and they are working there. It's full of Opus Dei people. So it's weird that they are in the main Spanish banks. They are settled, and in maybe we are, I don't know, but
I mean, it's surprising. It's surprising, and it isn't surprising at the same time, because I mean, if this is an organization that looks to recruit people from the elite, then it's natural. They've been successful at recruiting people from the elite, because these heads of all of these foundations are either members of Opus Dei or they're affiliated to Opus Dei in some way. I mean, like Aisha is an interesting one. Over the past couple of weeks, as I've been doing all of the Spanish media, people keep asking me about La Caixa the whole time, and about this guy in particular. And I don't particularly have any information on him, because I came into this story purely through Banco Popular. But I wouldn't be surprised if something similar were happening there. I haven't, like I said, I mean, this is complete speculation. But
Yeah.
it's interesting the number of times people have asked me about La Caixa and about this particular guy. And the Banco Popular story, people knew about this for so many years. There were suspicions, there were rumors, in the
Yeah.
same way that suspicions and there are rumors about La Caixa. But and the only reason we found out the truth about Banco Popular was because it collapsed. And the archives were opened up, and I could go in there and research this story. La Caixa obviously is still functioning, and the management of La Caixa still have control over who comes and accesses the archives. So it's not possible to look into that story as deeply yet. But the fact that people are equally suspicious about La Caixa and they're drawing these links, just like they were with Popular and in the 2000s and 2010s, tells me there's something that needs to be investigated and looked into. But it's going to be hard
Yeah, because
because
you just explain. I didn't finish yet your book, but I get the impression that you concentrate on the study homes, the financing of these study homes, and but I wonder if it's not going much further because you said they're also interested in lobbying with politicians and stuff. So what they want to put through, I mean, I never got that really because the people, m- many of the men I got to know from Opus Dei, they were rather, um, in one way, I would say perverted. I mean, I would not say that they were especially religious or conservative. I mean, so I was wondering what is behind.
I mean, I don't think there's a specific agenda like, this is the plan, we want these policies in place. I mean, there may be a handful of policies that they would like to see, like, obviously things like abortion banned and same-sex marriage banned, that kind of stuff. But other than that, I don't believe there's a real kind of particular agenda. I think it's more about having people like us. When I say us, I mean people like them in charge, people who are trustworthy, people who are morally grounded in the Bible and who have been taught kind of good Catholic ways. It's about having those people in positions of power rather than these horrible progressive people or these horrible left wingers who are full of crazy ideas. So I don't think there's a particular kind of set of policies that Opus Dei wants to push through. It's more about having their allies in positions of power, having people from their network in positions of power, I think.
Would it be like the Masons or Bilderberg or
I guess it might be like the Masons. I mean, I hesitate to
compare?
kind of comment because I don't know enough about the
Yeah.
Masons to it was kind of this morning actually I did a book event in here in London where a group of people came in, a group of elite people came to hear me talk about the book. And at the end, this guy came over to me and he basically said, and by the way, I'm a Mason. And I was like, what? People like you still exist? I didn't know. But I mean, basically I don't know enough about the Masons to
Okay.
but I imagine it's probably similar, right? It's kind of like having our friends in positions of power and
The
because they're
Spanish
like us.
society is full of these people. The Jesuits, yeah, the Masons, they still, I went to these ceremonies, and Zapatero is said to be a Mason. You know, this Merkel, she also did that. But yeah, it's Spain is full of this stuff. I mean, in Germany, it's more like people are very like also with Scientology. I mean, you find here a Scientology office in the center of Madrid without any problem. So that is, I think, why also you have Opus Dei schools here and no one is saying anything. They think they're good schools. They probably are good schools, compared to
Well,
others.
I mean, I'm sure that they are academically good
Yeah,
schools, that
yeah.
they get the good results. But certainly from what I've heard in other parts of the world, Opus Dei schools are pretty horrendous places to be as a young as a young kid or a young adult. I guess girls who are like 11, 12 are
Yeah.
encouraged to take. I have 3 daughters of my own, so I'm familiar with this as well. In the Opus Dei school, the girls were told they didn't need to have the vaccine because they would only ever have one sexual partner, the husband, and because they weren't going to be sleeping around, it wasn't something that they needed to worry about. Which, I mean, even if you were to only have one sexual partner, that sexual partner might be carrying the virus. So you absolutely do
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
vaccinated
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And in the science class, they were passing around a piece of, some sticky tape, some sellotape, and they passed it around the class. And by the end of after it had been around the class, it got back to the teacher, and the teacher basically said, "Look, now this piece of tape has been around the whole class. Can you see how used and horrible it is? This is what happens to your bodies if you basically sleep around." The girls are were basically being kind of fed this this kind of, basically you must be chaste forever. So they may get academic results, but there's a certain amount of brainwashing that's going on here.
I also wanted to ask you, you describe with many details the life of Luisa Valls and also of Jose Maria Escriva. Where did you get that information from?
Sorry, what was the question? What
Where
was
did
the
you get the information from their life, their personal life, the from Luis de Valls and from Jose Maria Escriva? Really with very many details you describe how was their day and everything. Where did you get it?
So with Escribá, for example, there were there've been many books published about Escribá by Opus Dei itself, and they go into a huge amount of detail about his, every element of his life. And this happens quite frequently with Opus Dei. You're reading a book that's written by an Opus Dei member, and it's extremely kind of positive about Escribá. And then suddenly you'll find this like anecdote or this story, and you think, really, why did you include this? This makes him look terrible. Like, so I think they're sometimes wrapped up in their own bubble that they don't realize that some of the stuff could actually be perceived in a really negative way. So, I mean, I basically read every book I could find about Escribá, and there are, I mean, if you look in the notes in the back of the book, you can find
Mhm.
precisely where
Okay.
it came from. Luis Valls. So I spoke to various members of his family, including his brother Javier, who was a couple of years younger than him. And I actually went to Switzerland and I stayed for 3 or 4 days with Javier, and we spoke all day long. I recorded the interviews. I probably have about 30 hours of interviews with Javier.
And then there is this school Jesse, which really is it used to be the best school, business school in the world. I don't know if it still is, but they
Yeah.
have, of course, so many contacts to people. I mean, so that's why I think it's really interesting to keep on spying them. What are they really doing? I mean, I know from people that did courses in ESL that they always organize family events and they want the family to be involved, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, it's all. I mean, I don't know if you've got to this bit in the book, but there's a bit in the book where we talk about. So when I talk about the ESA expansion to New York and how all of that's funded, and I go into the history of ESA and how it was
Mm,
basically an idea of Escribá, and it was a way of penetrating the business elite in Madrid, and it's been very successful, and that's still exactly what they do today. Now, I mean, it's a very good business school,
yeah.
but you can do two things at the same time. Just but it's also a recruitment center for Opus Dei. But that doesn't mean that doesn't detract from it being.
For sympathizers, probably not members. I think they have 80,000 members, not more, no? 80,000?
Opus
Obviously,
Dei
has, yeah.
about 90,000. Although
Yeah.
Whether or not we believe the figures, I don't know, but they say it's about 90,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have, they have, of course, I think that it's not so easy for them to get really people that are willing to stay in the Opus and then pay money and stuff. But they have a lot of simple people that want to be part of the network, without being super numerarios or super or numerario.
Yeah, and it's I think it can be a very beneficial to be inside of those Opus Dei circles, even without being a full member. I think being friendly with those people and being connected to those people can open doors. I mean, as you live in Spain. Spain is a very nepotistic society still. Things are changing, but thankfully, but it's still, I don't know how Germany is, but I know Spain quite well and I know the UK quite well. But I think the fear that people have is misplaced. I don't think they're going to come after me and like shoot me or like hurt me or something. But the power that they have within Spanish society is such that if you upset them, they will come after you and your career.
I really think it's amazing that you took the courage, although you say in the UK it's not that dangerous, But I think, however, I mean, to speak up, it becomes more and more difficult. I think, and people are not
Well,
aware. They're just talking about the lies of journalists, but they're not talking about how difficult it is to say the truth, to tell the truth.
But what I really hope my book does is kind of create space for people to start to talk about this more openly. I think my book is I've been working on it for 5 years. I've done a lot of hard work. I believe I've discovered a lot of new things, but there's so much more work to do. I hope that people like you, for example, and your colleagues in other countries will almost use my book as a starting point.
They open up. In my case, they also open to hear my version, no? But I think there is something behind, and we have to dig. I mean, we have to dig because otherwise,
You can really object to, but there's also there's this hidden underbelly that they keep secret and they hide from the world. And, good Catholics have been drawn into this organization basically on false pretenses, on using false information. They don't really know what's going on. And yeah, so hopefully it opens their eyes to that. Yeah.